with your woods, a lot of people go, well, what kind of wood do you burn? I'm like, pretty much anything I get. And that's not true. I tend to burn hardwoods. Your soft woods can clog up your chimney a little faster. Now, if all you got is softwoods, go for it. Pine burns great. These things here, these kiln dried woods, are pine. My main reason I don't use a whole lot of pine is because I use my ash for lye. I always have. It's part of living on my farm, is that we need the lye. And pine doesn't make great lye. So I try to use as little as possible and keep as much pine out of my lye barrel. Most people don't. Most people buy their lye now. They don't make it. So that's fine. And pine works really well as long as it's very dry. The resins in the pine can clog up your chimney a little bit. Your softwoods like poplar are great for like starting a fire or having a very hot fire. If you need like a high stove, you're curing your cast iron, so you need a 500-degree stove. You're going to want to have You're going to want to have soft wood like poplar, cottonwood, birch, pine. These create a fast, hot flame. You'll have to stuff your stove a lot more, but it creates a fast, hot flame. If you want a nice, steady burning, you're going to want to have more of your cherries, your maples, and your oak. Oak is a long burning wood. It's a very heavy, dense wood, and it's a long burning wood. Then I go to slightly bigger pieces, and then because I'm starting to get filled up, I put one, and I want the side with the most strings to face the fire. Okay? So there we go. Now, here, I'm going to take you guys off your tether. Now, a lot of people like to leave the lid off and light the fire because it's neat to see fire. Fire is a beautiful thing as long as it's not burning your house down. It's a really cool thing to look at. It changes. It's what heats us. We love fire. That's why most fireplaces or even new wood-burning stoves have glass doors so that you can see the fire in them. But these stoves run on a draft. They run on an entire draft system. And if you have a door open, you blow the draft system. So you got to close it up. I know you want to watch the fire. You do the rest of this by sound. Okay? So we're going to just close this up. I'll see if I can hold you guys and do this. I'm holding you with my left hand. I don't know if anybody else ever noticed this, but cameras are, of course, made for righties. I'm a left-hander, so that always makes me have to work a little bit different with the cameras. Then we open our draft all the way up, and we open our vent. Oh, that is all the way open up. This is closed. This is open. And we open that all the way up. And from here, I'll go from the stove. Now, normally, I light this with a match. I got my matches sitting right up here, right next to some of my essential oils and my cayenne. So, anyway, I have my matches sitting up there, but if I'm going to hold you with one hand and light a fire, it just works easier with the lighter. I know what I'm talking about. One second. Sorry, I had a peacock that wanted to come in the building. I had to tell him he couldn't come in. So we light it. And it's easy to light from the side, but these things will light pretty quick. And we close it because we want that draft, remember. Now what we do is we listen. So I'll shut up and you guys can listen. And what we're listening for is the tick of the wood catching on fire. And there may be a little smoke that comes out. There has been in the past anyway. Little smoke right here. That's because the chimney is very, very, very cold. And you need a warm chimney to get a good draft. So the fire will heat the chimney up and give us our draft. Oh, of course, a car comes by. Okay, smoke, you can start going up the chimney. I realize it's a cold day. There. There's our first big pop. Okay. Hear it? We have wood combusting now. Paper kind of crackles. Little wood makes these little ticking sounds, but you need a big pop tick. And now we've got wood burning. I'm going to give it a couple more, probably another minute or so, and then I'm going to start putting a little bit of wood into it. And from here on, for the most part, I work from this angle here. I work from the front, through the front fire. But I don't want to open that door quite yet until, and see, all the smoke is gone. We don't have any smoke. Now the chimney, the fire's heated the chimney up enough that the chimney has created what's called a draw, meaning it's drawing the cold air from over here, which is where the vent is, and it's going up the chimney. But you need a little heat to get that going. If you're in a warm house, you're not going to get that smoke because the chimney will already be warm, and that's the best place for it to go up. But we're in a very cold space right here, so the smoke really don't know where the hell to go. So it's like running around going, where? And it'll come out any crack until the chimney starts heating up. And you just hear that nice popping noise, and that is wood burning. Paper, like I said, it's kind of got a crackle to it. So I'm going to grab another chunk of wood here, and I start by kind of going through, and once you start burning, and I'm sure most of you have had fires and stuff, you go through and you want to find the exact perfect piece of wood. More than likely you'll never find it and you have to make do, but this firebox is a bit overstuffed. Normally I don't stack it quite this high, but because we've been splitting wood all morning, when we get a perfect piece I run it in here, and when you get it this overstacked, you can never find the perfect piece. But anyway, no, that one's too big to start with to go right now. Normally I don't like to use rounds. The split pieces light better. Rounds are for more burning later on, but this is a nice small piece, and it's a very, very dry piece, so that's why we're going to use it. And at this point, now this is cast iron with fire right behind it. So we don't just reach over and grab onto that, even though from time to time I have, and then I go, ow, and I go, that was stupid. We open it up like that. And you can see it's burning, and you can use your wood and all that stuff to kind of stick it in. And you can see where that fire is going. See how it's going up and over? Right at this moment, it's going straight back to that chimney. In a little bit, I'm going to leave this to go for a little bit, but in a little bit, now see how I've got this door open, and I've got it open for a long time. We've got a little smoke coming out the top. That's because I've screwed with the draft. I messed with the draft. It's not good. You can also see the fire's kind of almost dying down because the door's open. These stoves are made a certain way to work a certain way. So the longer I leave this open, the harder it is that this thing has to go. Oh, and see? Now I just touched that with my hand. See? I told you I'd do that. Anyway, I'm going to put a few more pieces of wood in, get this thing going, and then I'm going to come back and maybe we'll make something on this thing. So, but it's really pretty easy once you just get the, you just understand that you have to start with something that combusts at a very low temperature. And most of us instinctively know that. We know to put newspaper down there. And then just smaller, small pieces, and then you gradually make to bigger pieces, which is a big duh. But that's the way it is. So I'm going to stick a few more pieces in here, and I'll be back. Okay, here's the piece of this, obviously not the stove I was just dealing with, but just to show you this here, and you can see how this is just melted. Oh, jeez. And this is cast iron here, people. That's cast iron. It's heavy. This thing probably goes about 25 pounds, this piece of metal here. And you can just see how it warped and cracked. And that came, this is the back of the stove. It hangs like this on the back of the stove. and you can see it's right in the middle. You can see, and that's where the ashes build up. And when I was looking at this guy was throwing the stove away, and I said, well, basically that. I said, what's wrong with it? And he says, well, the back of it's cracked. And I took it from him basically because I figured if it's too far gone, I'll get it for scrap metal. I'll sell it and I'll trade it in up for scrap metal and get a couple $100 because it's all cast iron. Weighed 600 and some odd pounds. And anyway, and I said, well, I said, so this is, it warped? I said, that's pretty unusual for cast iron. I said, you cleaned the ashes out? And he said, oh sure, about every 6 months we clean the ashes out. Holy crapola! You can't do that, people. You cannot leave ashes sitting in the fire because, like I said, the coals, the ashes act as an insulator and superheat those coals. And then the coals get hotter and hotter and hotter, and they're sitting right here on the back of the stove, right in the middle. And that's usually if somebody has an ash fire, it's usually you see it right in the middle of the back, or not in the back, but right in the middle of the stove, whether it be in the bottom of the stove or the front. But it's always right in the middle because that's where all the coals go. And of course, then the ashes sat over here and superheated this, you know, whatever was right here in the middle, and it literally burned a hole. And this is what keeps your house from burning down. This is what contains the fire. That's what a stove is. You can make fire anywhere, but a stove helps you contain that fire. And so this is what would keep your house from burning down. And because he, you know, basically didn't clean his ashes out, you can see once it starts, cast iron is very, very strong until it's not. And things that can make it is if you got like in my stove there, if I was to take a piece of wood that had snow and ice on it and threw it in there after I had a fire going, it could crack the stove. It could crack the cast iron. You never take hot cast iron and stick it in the water. Stick it in cold water, it can crack it. And that's it. Once it loses its integrity, like this one has, then you can see here it's got cracks going up like this. And so you never add extremes to it. Anyway, so always, always, always make sure that you clean your ashes out, because this is what happens if you don't. And this is bad, you know. This stove, this wasn't a Vermont casting. What was it? I don't remember what kind it was. But when I went and looked it up online, it's $1,700 for the stove. And so basically he ruined this $1,700 stove. But you got other things to worry about. You have your probably several $100,000 house that can burn down. And then you have the irreplaceable no money value of life in that house that could die in this. So always, always, always clean your ashes out. Fire is, we can't live without fire. The electricity in your house is fire that is contained. We cannot live without it. But as wonderful and magical and powerful as it is for good, it is the same as terrible and magical and powerful for bad. So always make sure, excuse me again, always make sure that you respect it. And one way is to simply give it a clean house to live in. And that's what happens if you don't